All right. Just waiting for a couple more folks here. Okay, it's 3:02. Why don't we get started? As other people kind of enter the webinar, we'll go ahead and enter them in there. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Todd Falk. I'm the marketing manager for KRB Machinery. I'm sure we're all getting familiar with doing Zoom webinars nowadays. I have made you all panelists, so you could share your video if you wanted, and you could unmute yourselves if you have questions. I would ask if you do have a question, my experience has been it's maybe better to do it through the chat. And then at the end, I can come back and circle back to any questions that were asked during the presentation. If I missed them or if I'm paying too much attention to my screen, we could circle back and get your questions answered. Or I can circle back via email and make sure I answer your questions. So we're here today. You guys have received an email invite to participate in our webinar that we're having today about our Configurator 2.0. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you guys and show you the tool. What we're going to do is we're going to cover setting up an account, creating a shop diagram, some of the tips and tricks that you'll need to use the tool effectively, and then saving and recalling drawings. And I'll explain the two different types of drawings you can save and recall. And then any other questions you have, I'll be happy to answer them after that. So I'm just going to admit a few more folks here, and we're going to dive in. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. So Steve and Tina, since I can see you guys, can you see my screen now? Just so you can nod your head. Everybody can see. Okay, cool. So I'm assuming everybody else can see then. So we're going to talk about the Shop Configurator 2.0, and that tool is located under our online service center. So for anybody who's not familiar with that tool, under the service tab of our website, www.krbmachinery.com, you're going to find the online service center. Now, I just want to point out that available to anybody, the public can come to this site and they can see videos of any of the operations of the equipment that we have up here. So under auto benders, we've got all the MagnaBend operation videos. We have a number 11 bender operation, the bender head operation. So there's a bunch of video content available to anybody. And then if you register for the site, you'll be able to use the configurator tool. And there's some other exciting content under here, your manuals, their preventative maintenance videos, preventative maintenance sheets, all sorts of good content for you guys to dig in and learn about your KRB equipment. So if we're not available via service phone call, I would recommend going here first. You might have your question answered sooner than later. So you will need to create an account in order to see the configurator. It's very easy to do. What you're going to do is on the home page of the online service center, you'll click the create an account link, fill out the form and hit register. Then what happens is I get an email actually that says, hey, can you activate this person's account? And then I'll click a button and activate you. You'll receive an email back and then you'll be into the system. So you'll have to do that first. If you have any issues with that, please don't hesitate to email or call me directly and I can help you step through that. So once you do log in, you're going to notice that the navigation changes a little bit. So if I roll over the resources tab now, I do see the configurator tool is now available to me. Also, those other things that we spoke about, for instance, the manuals, preventative maintenance sheets, preventative maintenance videos are available too. And as a special sneak preview to anybody who's joining us today, we actually have parts online available online. So you guys are getting a little sneak preview. Once you register, you can go in and play with this. We do have parts available for you to order online. So we'd be interested in your feedback on this. We are going to announce this publicly next week. So without further ado, let's jump into the configurator tool. I'm going to jump back here to the webinar real quick just to make sure I've admitted everybody who is available. So bear with me 1 second. I just want to make sure I've got folks in. Okay, I think I do. All right, so once you click on the Configurator tab, and you've created your login account, you see the Configurator tab. This is the first screen you're going to come to. It's basically the help screen. So there is some useful information here. I would recommend reading it. For instance, each square is going to be equal to about 5 feet. And it does give you, it covers some of the functions that are available to you. And we'll of course, go over those here today. So the initial page also allows you to build your grid. And basically that is the area that you want to lay out for your shop floor. So I'm going to start with a very simple, most of the time that, I've been out visiting customers, in most instances, they're looking at a straight through shop and they've got an area of around 80 to 60 feet wide and about 200 feet long. So I'm going to go ahead and just start with a dimension like that. This is a common size building that you'll see. So of course, every building is different. Some buildings have odd shapes. We only really have the ability to show squares and rectangles with the tool, but you can do some things to compensate for odd shaped buildings. The first trick that I want to show you is, okay, so I'm in the view now, but how do I move the floor around? That's difficult. Now I could always click back on the help tab, and I can see here that shift click and drag will help me move the floor grid around. So you can always refer back to the help and then you just hit dismiss and you're right back to the tool. So by holding the shift key down on my keyboard and clicking on the grid, I can then drag and move that around. So that's going to be a helpful tool that you're going to use all the time. A shift click will move the floor grid around. Again, we're going to get an ebook out to you guys after this seminar that details all of these tools and tips that I'm going to show you and shows you screenshots of everything. So you'll have that in your possession after this webinar is over. Some things you'll notice in the interface is, of course, the grid. We've just built the grid. We've got equipment, stock equipment, shear lines, material handling, all of our different categories of equipment here. We'll go into those in detail here shortly. You can rotate any of those pieces of equipment that you place on the grid, and then you can throw them out as well. And then you can zoom in and out. And we'll cover these controls at the bottom here later. All right, so let's start with some tips and tricks that you'll need to know to use the tool effectively. To start with, again, we've got our shop floor laid out here. There is a zoom function that allows you to zoom into the grid. And again, if I shift and click, I can drag it around. Let's say I have an odd shaped building. It's got like a chunk out of it that I can't actually use. By double clicking on each of the squares, there are different color states you can assign them. So if I double click on this square, let me zoom in so you can see a little bit better. I can turn it red. If I double click again, it's yellow. If I double click again, it's gray. If I double click again, it's black. So there's a bunch of different states you can use. You can use these colors to indicate doorways, walkways, where your mechanical rooms are. If you click enough times through, you can actually make the square disappear. So it is possible to create odd shaped buildings, colorize the squares for notes, or maybe there's an area where you've got a fire hydrant or something that you want to indicate. You can indicate that by double clicking on the different states of the floor grid itself. So that's one trick you'll need to know. Again, holding the shift and drag, I can move the position of my shop layout. So I'm going to go ahead and just start laying some things in. Some things that are helpful to know is it's helpful to build your drawing from the back corner here where my cursor is. I'll go ahead and put a crane pile in so y'all can see that. But it's helpful to build from the back corner down. There are some tools that allow you to bring objects to the front. But if you can try to build the drawing from back to front, it will be helpful to you and speed the drawing up. But with this tool, I can add some crane pilings in here. I can indicate where my cranes are going to be operating, or if I'm using forklifts to move material around, I can place the forklift into the shop layout. You'll notice a blue bounding box around any object. As soon as I place it into the canvas, I'll call it, or onto the floor grid, it becomes active, and that is the object that I can then move around. If I click on an object, you'll see a blue bounding box around it. That means that object's selected, and that is the object I can then move around. So lots of things in this stock equipment tab. We can indicate what length rebar we're going to be using in our shop. If we're going to be using coil, we can show where we're going to store our coil stock. We have trailers with loaded with rebar, as well as finished goods trailers with the tractor, and also just a blank trailer. So if you're building a shop and you know you want to have area for a bunch of trailers to be staged to load product on, you can indicate that in your shop drawing. And then, of course, if you have a rail spur coming into your building, you can also indicate that. So we have a rail object there as well, so you can place that into your drawing. Typically, we're using forklifts or trains to move things around. In this particular drawing, I'm just going to assume that we're using some cranes. So I'll place some cranes in there. If I rotate my crane hook, it kind of indicates the direction it'll travel. So this looks like you can, if I zoom in, you can see it a little bit better. But we're indicating there's a beam on this crane hook, and the beam would actually be running this way. So it would make more sense that the beam would be running like this along my straight flow through shop. So I'll just leave it like that. It's helpful when designing a shop, if you have the ability to have, especially in a straight through shop, if you can have two beams, it's very helpful for your material handling. You can see that this crane hook would be used as we add stock, and this would be our stock bay. You could use this crane hook to unload trailers and load the shear line. And then you can use the second hook to take the bar out of the pockets, move it to benders, or load trucks with. So that's a kind of a helpful straight through design by having two beams with your craneway. So I'm going to go ahead and start placing my stock and where I would want to have my trailers come in. I can indicate doorways if I want by clicking on the grid itself. One of the other neat things in here is we have some flow arrows, so you can put some different colored arrows. So if you want to put notes in and indicate the direction of material flow, you can do that. We also have some notes embedded into the tool. And if any of you users have any feedback of additional notes we need to put out in here, we'd be happy to add them. The way this works is you click on the note, and then we actually have a few different notes. What happens is when that's selected, let me zoom in so you can see. When the note is selected and I rotate through, they change. There's different states in here. So we indicate some electric if we've got it. If there's maybe a door for trucks to come in, I can label that. If I want to show people where my straight bar is going to a bender with an arrow, I can indicate that using the notes. So by using the rotate, you can cycle through the different notes we have stored in here. And we do have the ability to add more. So if you feel like there's a note that's really missing that we should include into the tool, we're happy to get your feedback on that. Okay, let me just double check to see if we've got any questions here. Bear with me 1 second. I'm going to stop the share here, and I just want to jump back to the chat to see if we got any new attendees or. Okay, so it looks like we're good. I'm going to go back and share my screen again. All right, so I'm starting to build my drawing out. Now, let's say I want to go ahead and start adding a truck and some stock equipment or stock material. I'm going to say that I'm going to be working with 40-foot stock, and I'm going to put a couple bundles in there to indicate that I would store my stock material up here. And then I'm going to put a trailer in that would indicate, okay, here's going to be a door for my stock material to come through. And I'm going to put that over here. Sorry, I'm noticing a little screen performance here. Okay, so I'm going to place that in there, and then I have this pillar. Now, suddenly I've put this object in, and let me zoom in so you can see it better. I've put an object in, and it's on top of another object. Now, there is a control key that will bring that to the front, but I can't remember what it is. So if I click on my help button, I can go back to functions. Oh, and I remember that, oh, the alt click brings items to the front. So always remember your help is there to help you. And again, you'll have the e-paper that has more detail. But I remember that alt click brings that item to the front. So if I hold my alt key down and click it, I can bring that item to the front. This will come in handy because inevitably you will start building your shop drawing and you will place things that you want to have behind something or have them in front of something. So this shortcut will come in very much in handy as you're building shops. All right, so I'm going to zoom out a little bit and I'm going to start putting in some shear line material here. So we have our shear lines organized that you would put the entry in first. So I'm going to select a 40-foot entry. And then as I scroll over, I get my load frames. I'm going to just go ahead with 2 sets of this will be double tier 40-foot long load frames. So let me zoom in here. Now I want you to notice that I've stacked these things in the incorrect order. Remember, I didn't follow my own advice of building from the back to the front. So I'm going to use my handy dandy alt key to bring items to the front. So I'm going to say this is the back, the load racks that would go on the back side of this entry conveyor. I'm going to rotate them to the correct angle. And then I'm going to drag them up against the conveyor. Now I want to bring the conveyor to the front. So I click on the conveyor and I hold my alt shift key and you'll notice that that item gets brought to the front. And I'm going to do the same for this set of load frames that would sit on this side. And I've already brought that in, so it actually is in front already. Okay, so alt click will bring items to the front, and you will use that because notice my legs are in front of this thing of rebar. So I'm going to hit alt click to bring these items back to the front. And then of course my pillar, when I see it, is going to still be in the back there. So I need to bring that to the front. So I'm going to alt click and bring everything to the front. Shift click to move my floor plan back around. And then I can start adding the shear. So we do have a console in here. You can indicate on what side you would want it. Put the operator. I'm going to use the best shear in the world here, the H4100. I'll put that in next. And then next we would maybe have some pockets on this back side. But, you know, maybe what I want to do is I want to add a conveyor that maybe has a chain drag to a double bender with some pockets on the backside. So I can discharge straight bar on the backside, and I can discharge to an inclined chain drag that will convey onto a double bender here. And I want to do all that without a crane pick, right? Well, you know, KRB with its modular solutions can do that for you, and we have all those built into this tool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do something a little different. I'm actually going to go into shear lines, and I'm going to select a 50-foot long measuring table. And what that's going to do is that's going to give me a little bit of buffer between my shear operator, and I'm going to try to put a double bender on this side just to see what it would look like. So I can go ahead and place my pockets on the back side, and of course I've put my conveyor in front of that. So I need to bring my conveyor to the front, and then I can rotate my pockets around and place them on the back side. All right, so you can see our pockets back there, and then maybe I want to put some material handling in here. So we have all sorts of material handling solutions for you: bundle conveyors, a lift conveyor, and a flat chain drag. We also include our auto shakeouts in here. So for folks not familiar with those products, you can go on our website and learn more about them. But they are a way to get bar loaded onto the entry side of the conveyor without having to shake the bars out onto the conveyor. In this instance, I'm going to go ahead and use the chain drag. It comes in 10-foot modules. So with a 40-foot machine, it's actually 3 modules that we'll put in there, and there's some space between them. And the way that these fit in is they butt right up against the conveyor. So the measuring table would discharge onto these, and then they would convey on to the double bender. And I'll show you that here in a second. So I'm just going to go ahead and drop 3 modules in here real quick. Place them in here, and then I want to add a double bender. So I want to, this system will, without a crane pick, automatically convey bars to a double bender. So let's go ahead and go to auto bar benders. This loads a little bit slower, I've noticed, just because the complexity of the drawings that are in here takes a little bit more time. So let's say, let's just add a 40-foot 111 as our option here. So the 111 will come in, I'll drag it in place and then rotate it in the proper angle. And these are all roughly to scale. So you'll see that the top of the chain drag would in fact clear the top of the conveyor on the back of the double bender and discharge bars directly up. Let me zoom in so you can see it a little bit better. So our bars would come down here, they would discharge onto the chain drag and then onto the back of a double bender. So we have all the material handling solutions in the tool. You can connect them and make any kind of combination or almost anything you can envision, you can build with the tool. Now, every good rebar shop, you know, we're trying to move away from, you know, table bending in most instances, but you're still going to need a table bender until there's that magic bullet out there that automatically does everything hands-free. So I'm going to go ahead and add a table bender into my shop. We also include bender tables in 10-foot sections with this. It's a good idea to have bender tables around your table bender just to handle the material and make the operator's job a little bit easier, shuffling bars back and forth. So I'll quickly place those in here. We also, of course, have our full line of automatic stirrup benders are available to place in your shop. So maybe you want to design a shop with just a shear line and a table bender to start, and then you want to come back to your drawing and add automatic stirrup benders or a straight cut machine or a spiral machine or some other type of equipment that rounds out your offering in your shop. You can do that with the KRB Shop Configurator 2.0. You can build a shop drawing, save it, and then bring it back and reload it later. And I'll show you that here in a little bit. So let me just jump back. I'm going to stop my share real quick, jump back, make sure there's no chat questions for me. So bear with me 1 second. I don't see any chat questions. Doesn't look like any other people who have joined us. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again. Excuse me. Okay, so I'm getting close to getting my drawing together. I do want to indicate maybe where my finished goods are coming out of my building. So I can scroll over. I'm going to go ahead and find, I passed it, the trailer with the finished goods. And I'm going to have him go out this door here. Of course, my column needs to be brought to the front. So Alt click and I can bring my column to the front. If I shift and drag, I can move my drawing around. And if I zoom out a little bit, I can see the whole thing. So this is starting to look pretty good. I think maybe I'm to a point where I can actually save this drawing. And I think it's my first version. Maybe it's my first pass, my first draft, and I'm ready to circulate this with my shop foreman or whoever I need to circulate it with. We do give you the ability with the KRB Configurator 2.0 to save these drawings. So you can also save them as image files. So why don't I show you how to save the drawing first. So what you would do is you just click on the save button down here, and you'll notice that the text field says enter a file name. So you give it a file name. I'm going to call this webinar 2. And then I click the button save drawing underneath. Okay. And then we give you a little bit of congratulations, you did it message. So that comes up. And then you'll be able to recall then that drawing. So I've actually loaded, I've got a couple drawings saved in here. Let's say I want to recall an old drawing that I did. The way you do that is you actually click on the load button at the bottom, and then you'll see a list appears here on this select box. So I'm going to go ahead and select my list. And I actually did one earlier that I called webinar 1. I'm going to select that one, and then I'm going to load the drawing. So I did a very similar drawing prior. I was practicing for you guys, so I didn't mess up too bad doing the webinar. I'd saved this drawing, and now I'm able to recall the drawing just as I created it before. So another reason why to register and log in, first of all, you wouldn't be able to see the tool, but by knowing who is registered, we're able to save your drawings in a folder just to you, and those drawings remain private to your registration account. So another important reason to register on the online service center to get this tool. So you're able to save and recall drawings. You can also save these drawings as files. There's two types of images. There's pixel-based images, and there's what they're called vector-based images. Pixel-based images are just what they sound like. They're an image made up of pixels. What happens with those when you tend to blow them up is you get what's called rasterization. You've seen where pictures get fuzzy, they get kind of square looking. That's called rasterization. You can save a raster image to put in Word documents, PowerPoint presentations, things like that. It's a low resolution file that's very small, easy to use. You can do that by just clicking on the Save as a PNG file. And you'll notice in the lower right-hand corner, I'm using Chrome. It might be different in whatever browser you're using, but you could save that image. And then when I open it, you may need to crop it with Paint or whatever other tool you have. But then you could place this image into a PowerPoint presentation, Word document, etc. We also give you the opportunity to save it as an SVG file. Now, a lot of people are not familiar with this file type. SVG stands for Scalable Vector Graphic. And basically what it allows you to do is it saves a line drawing that you can blow up to any size. You could print it on a D-size drawing, and it will be crisp and clear and retain its resolution. So you can also save it as an SVG file. What I recommend doing is then that shows up in your browser. You can zoom in on it if you'd like with your plus and minus keys, and you notice that the resolution stays nice and crisp and clear. You can also print this as a PDF file or save it as a PDF file, and that would retain its vector base. And so you could print it out on 1117 or a D-size drawing, whatever you wanted, and it would retain its resolution, which is important when presenting to people. It keeps it nice and professional looking. So there's two different ways you can save it. Down there, also some of the tools down here are we already covered the help. So whenever you get stuck, you can always refer to the help screen. It will pop up right there, and then hit just dismiss to get rid of it. You can also add flags. So selfishly, we also built this tool for our sales folks to use. If they're putting together proposals, they can give you a drawing of exactly what we've proposed, and they can add flags here and number that proposal. So I can zoom in a little bit so you can see a little bit better. But I can label my load frames one thing, and then my entry conveyor would be something different. The third item would probably be the shear, etc., etc. And we do give you the ability to rotate these flags in the 4 different directions. So if it doesn't work from pointing down at the top, you want to point from underneath to the controller, for instance, you can rotate it and have the arrow change directions. Then, of course, when you save it, it saves those flags in your drawing as well. And then the last tool tip that I'll show you here, we're getting to our end here, is center the shop. So this is just a quick way to, instead of using the zoom panel to zoom in and out, if I click center shop, it will quickly recenter my shop and bring it all into the canvas so I can see it more easily. So it's another little just shortcut trick for you on this webinar today. And then we do have some pre-built rooms that they're drawn in the drawing that you can start, instead of starting from scratch, you could load up one of these drawings. This, for instance, shows, you know, a straight through bay. You could, you know, you could, if you want to experiment with what a parallel bay might look like in your space, you can do drawings like that, and then of course save and recall them for later. But these pre-built ones are in there just as kind of shortcuts to get you started without having to drag and drop individual machines into a space. So they're there for your use if they're usable. So that really covers the tool as far as all the tool sets, how to set up your account, how to create the shop diagram, some tips and tricks you'll need in order to use the tool effectively. Again, don't forget about the help screen, and we'll be giving you a recording of this webinar. We'll put it also up publicly on our online service center, so you can refer back to it at any time. You'll have the ebook that shows you the detailed instructions on how to use the tool. And of course, my contact information, you know, marketing@krbmachinery.com. On any email you receive, any questions we can answer for you, please don't hesitate to contact us. That's why we're here. You're all part of our KRB family, and we're here to help you. So don't hesitate to contact me directly if you've got stuck or you need help with something. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Just going to jump back. Looks like we've got a question. Can you change a save drawing? So you can. What you can do is you can let's say that first drawing that I created, I saved it as webinar 2, and I recalled it. I loaded the drawing. I could add different equipment into it. I could take equipment out. I can't change the floor dimension of it, because once the floor dimension is set on a drawing, that's the floor dimension you're stuck with. But then you can resave that drawing. You have to give it a different name, but you can then use that base drawing and call it version 3 or give it a date. And so you can save, you could change save drawings to answer your question. Yes. Do I have any other questions? Don't be shy. You can unmute. Everybody's been made a panelist. So if you want to unmute and chime in, we'd love to hear from you. Okay. Well, I appreciate everyone's time this afternoon. Thank you very much. We'll be doing more webinars coming up. We've got some equipment demonstrations planned, maybe a virtual tour of our factory. And we've also got some exciting things, talking about the parts online that we're going to be announced shortly. We've also got some exciting announcements coming up on some content that we're going to introduce. So I wish everyone well and stay in touch. Again, we'll be sending out an email where you can download a recording of this webinar if you'd like, and also get your e-paper on the instructions. So any questions before I sign off? All right. Well, thank you guys. You have a great weekend. And we'll talk to you soon. Again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact me directly.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it.
All right.
Bye.
Take care.